Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Because we care for one another's safety, our congregation is gathering online during this long season of coronavirus pandemic. Nevertheless, through the gifts of technology, we continue to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls,
Good morning, and welcome to the All Souls online gathering for December 20th, 2020. The holiday season is spinning by. Hanukkah is concluded. The last Advent candle is lighted today. Tomorrow comes the shortest day. This week, Christmas itself and the start of Kwanzaa. We celebrate the first COVID vaccinations, even as the death toll mounts, and we grieve this great loss and suffering. We observe this season in a context of isolation and caution as a gesture of care for one another, seeking to salvage what we can from the chaos of this pandemic. In this strange, constrained season of Christmas arriving, let us recall the words of our fellow Unitarian, Charles Dickens, from his odd little ghost story, A Christmas Carol. He writes, "It is required of every person that the spirit within us should walk abroad among our human neighbors and travel far and wide. Humankind is our business. The common welfare is our business. Charity, mercy, forbearance are all our business. Our human courses foreshadow certain ends, to which, if persevered in, they must lead. But if the courses be departed from, the ends must change. The year is waning fast, and it is precious time to us. We have the power to render others happy or unhappy. We have the power to make their days light or burdensome, and their work a pleasure or a toil. Our power lies in words and looks, in things so small that it were impossible to add and count them up. But the happiness we give is no small matter. A good word is worth a fortune. Then let us go forth while it is still day and turn human misery into joy. Let no idol replace love. Let us by one consent open our shut-up hearts and think of people as if they were fellow passengers to the grave. Let Christmas be once more a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. Let us carry the torch of goodwill that its light may banish hate. Let us honor Christmas in our hearts and keep it all the year. And so God bless us, everyone. And as we kindle our chalice in preparation for the longest night and the turning of the year, this reflection from the poet Edward Erickson. If, as Herod, we fill our lives with things, and again with things, if we consider ourselves so indispensable that we must fill every moment of our lives with action, when will we have the time to make the long, slow journey over the burning desert, as did the Magi, or sit and watch the stars, as did the shepherds, or brood over the coming of the child, as did Mary? For each one of us, there is a desert to travel, a star to discover, and a being within ourselves to bring to life. In the spirit of that desert, that star, and that being coming to life, we light this chalice flame. And invite you to share in the comments where your own chalice fire is kindled this morning. Now let's join together in speaking once again our covenant promises to this community. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. The tradition of Advent candles teaches us that life itself takes place in the interval between now and whatever we are waiting for, whether that is Christmas or any other hoped for event. The time of anticipation is really all the time there is. If we choose to, we can make this season of expectation an opportunity for nurturing our faith and affirming our hope, for rejoicing and deepening our capacity for peace. The time of waiting grows short. The fourth and final candle of Advent is for peace, and it is also called the Angel's Candle, in memory of the song that was said to have filled the skies the night that Jesus was born, by choirs of angels proclaiming peace on earth and goodwill to all people. It reminds us that while the season of Christmas is one of generosity and good cheer, love and friendship and joy, it also has an element of responsibility and ethical demand. The baby born in the stable was remarkable because of the leader and teacher that he would grow up to be. The Prince of Peace, the prophets had called him, the one who would challenge the oppression of empire, the privilege of religious elites, in the name of the poor, the disabled, the captives, the broken of heart, the broken of body, the broken of life. The peace of Christmas is found wherever justice and compassion stir anew in human community. Whenever people imagine a world without violence and trauma, where all babies might sleep in heavenly peace, and all the grown-ups too. May the peace that is founded upon right relations and goodwill among people be with us in this season and help us to build together the new world that we are all waiting to see born. May faith and hope and joy and peace and love all be yours this Christmas Day. There are those who say that the whole cultural construct of Christmas is really about children, about the stories we want to tell children, and our desire to see children be happy, and the magic that we wish children would believe, even when we ourselves no longer can. It is about our longing to return to some moment of unself-conscious wonder from our own childhoods, to be simple and happy and innocent as we imagine it in retrospect. It is easy to deplore the suffering of children who are so clearly not in charge of the world. And so, in the name of the children, we make our Mitten Tree every year to try to be assured that nothing so elementary as a pair of mittens should keep our littlest neighbors from being comfortable and happy. This year, we cannot be handing such items from one person to another. That is dangerous for everyone until we get the coronavirus under control. So we decorate our animated Mitten Tree with the names of the children we love, and in their names, give money to support the work of Pride Haven Save Inc. This project exists to help homeless teens and young adults find the resources to establish stable, sustainable lives, and with the resources that will allow them to thrive, whether or not they meet our society's criteria for legitimate sexual or gender self-identity. 3 weeks from now, at our annual Gratitude Yulebach on January 10th, we will share the total of how much our community has contributed so that these young citizens of our metropolis might have warm enough clothes. In the meantime, here is our virtual Mitten Tree with its latest editions of the names of the beloved children in whose honor contributions have been made.
Good morning. My name is Scott England, and I've been a member of this church for over 20 years, and I'm currently serving as a member on your board of trustees. I know this has been a challenging year for all of us. For some, it's meant loss of a job or changes in your job. For many, it's meant challenges to health, or it's meant loss of family, loved ones, or friends, or coworkers. It's meant being away from those that we love, not being able to spend time with each other. It's meant not being able to do activities that we normally do. It's meant not being able to join together in person for church services, to come together as our own community. In many ways, you may think that this has been a long, dark year. Well, fittingly enough, we're facing that physical time of year right now too. We're celebrating the solstice today, when the turning of the year starts our way back to light. I hope that regardless of how you're feeling this holiday season, if you're feeling full of joy and ready for celebration, if you're feeling despair or loneliness, or if you're simply feeling nothing, if you're feeling overwhelmed and just trying to make it through, I hope that in some way, shape, or another, you've been able to find some community and support from all souls. I think we can also look at this time as a solstice in terms of the COVID pandemic. We have vaccines that are being approved and that are, as we speak this Sunday, are making their way out into the communities, first going to frontline healthcare workers and those who are at particular risk, and slowly making their way out through the rest of the community. Soon, life will begin returning to normal, back to the way it used to be. Just as soon, our days will begin being slightly longer and longer again. We'll see signs of life starting to appear from the ground and from the trees and the bushes around us. I know that there still will be some dark times to come as deaths and illness continue to peak for a while, but the light is on the horizon. And I hope that part of that light for you is the All Souls community and the All Souls congregation, knowing that someday soon we'll be able to meet again in person and celebrate our community. In that spirit, the offering will now be given and gratefully received.
All hail to the days that merited more praise than all the rest of the year, and welcome the nights that double delights, as well for the poor as the pure. Sweet blessings attend each merry man's friend, that doth with the best that he may, forgetting all wrongs with poems and songs to drive the cold winter away. 'Tis ill for the mind to anger incline, to think of small injuries now. If wrath be deceived, doth lender thy cheek, don't let it inhabit thy brow. Cross out of thy books malevolent looks, of beauty and use decay, and spend the long nights in honest delights to drive the cold winter away. Hallelujah. This time of the year is meant in good cheer, with neighbors to gather to meet, to sit by the fire with friendly desire, with others in love to greet. Old grudges forgot, are poured in the pot, all sorrows aside they lay. The old and the young doth carol this song to drive the cold winter away. All hail to the days that merited more praise than all the rest of the year, and welcome the nights that double delights, as well for the poor as the fear. Sweet blessings attend each merry man's friend, that doth with the best that he may, forgetting old wrongs with poems and songs to drive the cold winter away.
Let's say together the words of dedication for our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
Good morning. Today's reading is from Braiding Sweetgrass, a book of indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and teaching of plants by Robin Kimmerer, who is a botanist and also a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. My father made sure that all of his children and grandchildren could start a fire, even in the snow or the rain, with just one match. With the right materials carefully assembled and respect for the ways of the air and the wood, you could always have a fire. With a single match, you can make people feel safe and happy, convert a bunch of sodden individuals into a convivial group thinking of stew and song. Such an amazing gift to carry in your pocket and a serious responsibility to be used well. Now at 83, my father teaches fire building at our Native Youth Science Camp, sharing the lessons he once gave us. They race to get their little blazes to burn through a string stretched across the fire circle. And one day, after the contest had been won, my father sat on a stump poking the fire. He asked them, "Did you know there are 4 kinds of fire?" Now, having heard this, I expected his lesson on hardwoods and softwoods, but it turns out he had something else on his mind that day. Well, first, of course, there's the campfire that you made here. You can cook on it, you can keep warm by it, it's a good place to sing, and it keeps the coyotes away. And toast marshmallows, one of the kids piped up. You bet. But who knows the other kinds of fire, he asked. Forest fires? One of the kids asked tentatively. That's right. It's what our people used to call thunderbird fires. Forest fires ignited by lightning. Sometimes they get put out by rain, but other times they'd turn into huge wildfires so hot they'd destroy everything for miles. Nobody likes that kind of fire. But our people also learned to set fires that were small, set in just the right places and just the right time, so that they would help rather than hurt. They set these fires on purpose, to take care of the land, to help the blueberries grow, or to create meadow for the deer, or to create a clearing where the young birch trees would grow. Fire helps out many plants and animals, burning off the brush to thin the stand and to prevent catastrophic fire. Our people were given the responsibility to use fire to make things beautiful and productive. It was our art and our science.
Okay, what are other kinds of fire? My father asks. One student knows. Sacred fire, like for ceremonies. Of course, my dad says. The fires we use to carry prayers, for healing, for sweat lodges. The fire represents our life, the spiritual teachings that we've had from the very beginning. The sacred fire is the symbol of life and spirit, so we have special fire keepers to care for them. You might not get to be around those other fires very often, he says, but there is a fire you must tend to every day. The hardest one to take care of is the one right here, he says, tapping his finger against his chest. Your own fire, your spirit. We all carry a piece of that sacred fire with us. We have to honor it and care for it. You are the fire keeper. Now here's something you can't forget about fire, he says. As he stands before the kids, I hear echoes of the first teachings, when the hero, Nana Bozo, received the same fire teachings from his father that my dad is passing down today. You must always remember that fire has 2 sides. Both are very powerful. One side is the force of creation. Fire can be used for good, like on your hearth or in ceremony. Your own heart fire is also a force for good, but that same power can be turned to destruction. Fire can be used for good for the land, but it can also destroy. Your own fire can be used for ill too. Human people can never forget to understand and respect both sides of this power. They are far stronger than we are, and we must learn to be careful, or they can destroy everything that has been created. We have to create balance.
Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. For the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. For the time is drawing nigh. Darker midnight lies before us. Darker midnight lies before us. Darker midnight lies before us. For the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. For the time is drawing nigh. Winter solstice soon be turning. Winter solstice soon be turning. Winter solstice soon be turning. For the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. For the time is drawing nigh. Lo, the morning still is breaking. Lo, the morning still is breaking. Lo, the morning still is breaking. For the time is drawing nigh. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. Children, don't grow weary. For the time is drawing nigh.
It's a bit of cheek to question a wisdom as old as the traditions that Robin Kimmerer's father is teaching. But I think there is at least one more kind of fire that he did not name, in addition to campfires, forest fires, sacred fires, and the fire of the inner spirit, and that is celestial fire, the kind that burns light years away in our sun and all the other stars of the night sky. These fires constituted our first calendars as human beings. Our ancestors learned to track the months by the moon, and seasons and years by the equinoxes and solstices. Over time, they came to predict eclipses, comets, and the complex dance of planets in the heavens. Something so intricate and ordered could not be an accident, they argued. It had to have a designer and a meaning for our little human lives. Some reasoned that these celestial bodies must be gods, daily and nightly traveling across the sky in flaming chariots drawn by mythical creatures. When anything different happened with these familiar patterns, it called for interpretation at least, if not great alarm. If you would care to witness such a remarkable event for yourself, go outside on Solstice Eve tomorrow night, just after sunset, and look toward the southwest, a little above the horizon. If the skies are clear, what you will see is the conjunction of the planets Saturn and Jupiter as their orbits cross from our perspective. Now, planets, as we know from our own Earth, are not themselves composed of atomic fire like the stars, but they reflect the sun's fire into space and so appear to have a light of their own. When their various orbits bring two or more of them to line up as experienced by our naked eye, even though they are still light years distant from each other, they make an even brighter reflection than usual. If the shortest day and the longest night of the year is not enough to draw your gaze up to the night sky this year, for one performance only in our lifetimes, the heavens are putting on an extra show. But not for the first time. I mean, we're close enough. Let's examine a bit of the text from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he that has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him." Now when Herod the king heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where the Messiah should be born. And they said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule all my people Israel." Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them on to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again that I may come and worship him also." When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country by another way. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, "Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the child to destroy him." And he arose and took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled that which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, "Out of Egypt have I called my son." Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the surrounding area from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, saying, "In Ramah there was heard a voice of lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, because they are no more." Wise men, says this translation, but originally they were called magi, from the same stem as magic and magician. They were the scholars of their era, who time and tradition have reinterpreted as kings. But their discussion of a star identifies them specifically as astrologers, whose study it was to watch the heavens in search of new patterns and unusual occurrences, and to interpret the political and historical significance that these might have. We are only told that they came from the east, these magi, but Babylon was the great center of Persian scholarship, so it will do for an approximation. The straight distance from Babylon to Jerusalem, where they first appeared, looks like something rather more than 800 miles, but they would have followed established routes, not traveled as the crow flies, which makes it more like 1,100 miles or so. Of course, we don't know where they actually started from or how fast such a procession would have moved or what accidents might have befallen them on the way. It may all be a made-up story anyway, but there is just this intriguing bit of astronomy to suggest that Matthew may be encoding a cultural memory in his narrative. Keep in mind two things. One, the Magi only appear in Matthew, and the shepherds out in the fields with their flocks are only found in Luke. The other two Gospels, Mark and John, say nothing at all about the circumstances of Jesus' birth. Secondly, this was an era with no great interest in recording births, particularly among peasants and common people, for whom the infant mortality rate was dauntingly high. And what was the East, after all? The place of Israel's historical humiliation, the empire of Babylonia that had once conquered the kingdom of Judah and its capital, Jerusalem, and marched its most powerful citizens away to nearly a lifetime of exile in that pagan nation. The anguished question, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land, arises from this era. And even when, with the rise of a new emperor, the Jews are given offhanded permission to go back to their country of origin if they want, it is a random administrative detail, not the triumphant march of victory that they had dreamed of. Many of them don't even want to return. They have come to terms with life in Persia, and Jerusalem is a distant memory. So the author of the Gospel of Matthew, whose agenda is to demonstrate beyond all doubt that Jesus is the long-promised Savior, Messiah of Jewish prophecy, offers us the most discerning and powerful astronomer scholars of that culture, seeking out this newborn King of the Jews to acknowledge and humbly honor him. Their own celestial divinities, the stars, told them it was happening, and so they came to see. Now, conflation is the name of the game when you are constructing a persuasive historical narrative, and by the time the author of Matthew was writing, some 80 years had elapsed since the events he was describing. It is likely that no one then alive remembered much about the birth of Jesus, but there are two events that might have made it into oral traditions from recollections of that time. One is the whisper that the Roman client king Herod, who was known to have potential rivals killed off even within his own family, had once ordered the slaughter of all male babies younger than 2 in a particular region in order to eliminate a newly born son of his own. It was something of an open secret. Upon hearing it, the Emperor Augustus is reported to have joked, "Better to be one of Herod's pigs," which in the Jewish tradition could not be slaughtered, than one of his sons. The other occurrence that might have lodged in the collective memory was a conjunction of planets, such as we will see tomorrow night. In the year 7 BCE, this we can calculate, so we know the date for sure, the planets Jupiter and Saturn appeared as one light to the naked eye, most visibly 3 times in what we now call May, October, and December. In late February of the following year, 6 BCE, Mars joined this group to form a 3-part conjunction, which would have appeared as an unusually bright star on the horizon just after sunset. To people who had no artificial light but oil lamps, who watched the skies carefully for the weather, if nothing else, these appearances would have been memorable. Given his agenda, it would have been easy for the author of Matthew to weave these popular recollections into his story as credible details demonstrating that Jesus really was born to rival Herod's kingship and heralded by star signs that even the idolatrous Babylonians with their sky gods could not help but acknowledge. A camel, I am informed, can travel sustainably at a pace of some 25 to 30 miles a day, which means they would have needed 44 days minimum to cover the distance between Babylonia and Jerusalem. It might easily have taken twice that. But assume that the early December conjunction, the third one of its kind that year, was the one that persuaded them to set out. By the time they arrived in Israel, consulted with Herod, and continued on to Bethlehem, the addition of Mars to the planetary conjunction in late February might have put the seal on their conviction that their journey was ordained by the heavens and signaled some extraordinary turning point in history. The last time that such a conjunction was visible on Earth, by the way, was in 1226, not quite 800 years ago. It will occur fairly soon again, actually, in 2080. So if you expect to live another 60 years, you could go ahead and skip this one. But it is certain that none of us has already been there, done that in our lifetimes. And I have to say, when the celestial fires are putting on a performance as rare as this, seems like the least we can do is show up. What the Babylonian Magi knew about astronomy was that it takes a lot of patience, and you have to tie it to some kind of narrative if you want people to focus on it. I suspect that is why the winter solstice is continually accreting all these other holiday traditions that come with history attached, so that there is a story to tell while you watch out the longest night and wait for the light of a new dawn. Those celestial fires are even farther away than those ancient watchers could have begun to imagine. In fact, the planets have no story to tell of warring gods and flaming chariots, nor any predictions of what lies ahead for human principalities and powers. The truth is that it is we who have the stories and the predictions. We who make the meaning and the music that is to be found in the stars. One could argue that a once in several centuries astronomical event is a fitting conclusion to 2020, a year that, as Winston Churchill once observed of the Balkans, produced more history than it could consume. And that, too, is our interpretation. The stars burn on, distant and indifferent fires, inviting us to imagine what they might mean. The other fires are close and immediate. The all too destructive Thunderbird fires of our West Coast states this past summer, which will ultimately serve the purpose of nature's regeneration, but at a much higher cost than need have been because of ignorant human intervention. The campfires and hearth fires, along with Yule logs of old, which bring to mind canisters of propane that our homeless neighbors use to heat their makeshift shelters and tents so that they might not die of exposure in the midst of our great cities. The ritual fires, like our own flaming chalice, and the Hanukkah lamps, and the Advent candles, and the Kwanzaa candles of the season. But even these ritual fires are not all holy. Think of tiki torches and burning crosses on lawns, and not so long ago, witches and heretics in the flames. All fire carries the power of destruction, and in unbalanced hands, is dangerous. Even the fires of commitment and sacrifice that burn within our spirits, they may be the fire of inspiration or the care that warms and comforts others. But they may also be the consuming flame of greed or the scorching heat of self-righteousness that destroys everything different. The fire at the heart of the atom, too, that we have learned to unlock so that we might bring more energy and light to the world, or smash all that we have built and all the life we know in a mushroom cloud of human rage. Even the skies we now tinker with, fill them with satellites to beam our dispatches and disputes of both urgency and triviality, to share our knowledge across this globe in a way that the ancients could not have imagined or believed, and find in them new ways to injure and betray each other as well. Day after tomorrow, we will have passed the turning point, the darkest moment of the year, and the sun will begin its return. Look up into the night sky. Were those who saw the kingdoms of the gods and their revelations to mortals any more credulous than we who see today our memories and messages swirling across a great invisible cloud? Back in the day, our ancestors built bonfires on the hilltops in China, on the village greens of ancient Britain, on the tundras of Scandinavia, to mark this turning, to greet the shift of the sun toward growing light. It was a gesture of solidarity, those great flaming beacons of celebration. Hello, sun. Hello, stars, we see you. We salute you, fires of the universe. We, here on this turning planet, we are star stuff too. We say yes to you. We lift our eyes and our hands and our spirits toward you and study to know your mysteries. We watch you down the centuries, listening for your message, paying attention to the fires that burn in our hearts and our world, seeking always the balance that is light and dark, life and death, the great cycle of which we are each a part. Here we stand in this moment of conjunction and solstice pivot, once more scanning the skies. Speak then, fire of the heavens. What is it that you would have us to know?
When the deer has bedded down, and the bear has gone to ground, and the northern goose has wandered off to warmer bay and sound.
It's so easy in the cold to feel the darkness of the year, and the heart is growing lonely for the morning.
Oh, my darling, don't you know that the stars are swinging low, and the seas are rolling easy as they did so long ago? And if I had a thing to give you, I would tell you one more time that the world is always turning toward the morning.
When the darkness falls around you, and the north wind comes to blow, and you hear him call your name out as he walks the brittle snow.
That the old one don't mean you trouble, he don't care or even know, he's just walking down the darkness toward the morning. Oh, my darling, don't you know that the stars are swinging low, and are rolling easy as they did so long ago. And if I had a thing to give you, I would tell you one more time that the world is always turning toward the morning.
It's a pity you don't know what the little flowers know. They can't face the cold November. They can't take the wind and snow.
They put their glories all behind them, bow their heads and let it go. But you know they'll be there shining in the morning.
Oh, my darling, don't you know that the stars are swinging low, and the seas are rolling easy as they did so long ago. And if I had a thing to give you, I would tell you one more time that the world is always turning toward the morning. Oh, my darling, don't you know that the stars are swinging low, and the seas are rolling easy as they did so long ago. And if I had a thing to give you, I would tell you one more time that the world is always turning toward the morning. That the world is always turning toward the morning.
In preparing for the long sleep of winter, so that you yourself may grow calm and grounded deep within. May you grow still enough to hear the trickling of water seeping into the ground, so that your soul may be softened and healed and guided in its flow. May you grow still enough to hear the splintering of twilight in the winter sky and the roar at the earth's fiery core. May you grow still enough to hear the stir of a single snowflake in the air, so that your inner silence may turn toward hushed expectation. May you grow still enough to find the center of balance within you and hear the rhythm of the infinite dancing stars.
We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice and a happy new year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a merry solstice and a happy new year. We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice. We wish you a merry solstice and a happy new year.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. For all these we carry in our minds and hearts until the time shall come when we will be together again. Thank you for being with us this morning. Please join us now for informal conversation at our Zoom social hour. You will find the connection link on our All Souls website homepage. We hope you will be with us at 6 o'clock on Thursday for our Christmas Eve song and story celebration, when we will share some thoughtful words and beautiful music of the season. It may enhance the experience if you join us from a partially darkened room by candlelight. We will also gather next Sunday for our annual Golden Oldie service to hear again the readings and sermon from this past July and ponder how much has and has not changed in these last several months. Merry Christmas, everyone, as we look forward to a safe and happy new year for us all.